Welcome to Tell Me Your Story, new paradigms for a new world where we're giving you choices and knowledge of those choices to help make your dreams come true. We are here 9 times a week, Sundays at 7 a.m. and 7 p.m., Monday mornings at 1 a.m., Wednesdays at 9 a.m., and Monday through Friday from 8 to 9 a.m., streaming live at all those times at richarddwoskin.com. We are on SoundCloud, iTunes, TuneIn Radio, Spotify, Stitcher, Player FM, as well as YouTube, where you can watch these conversations. I hope that you will take time to subscribe and click notifications so that when a new conversation is posted, you'll be notified and you'll be able to tune in, listen in, and learn, be entertained and inspired. A reminder that Choices, which is my book, 5 Steps for Life, it's available on Amazon.com in paperback, hardcover, and Kindle with Audible, soon to be released. We also ask that if you can support the work that we are doing financially, we do have a PayPal account. It is there for your security as well as ours. And when they ask for an email address to whom you're sending, please go to richard@richarddugan.com. That's the email address. If you go to richarddugan.com, there is also a link directly to PayPal so that you can send us whatever support you can. And we thank you to those who have helped and to those who will help. We also ask that you take time during this decade of perfect vision, the 2020s, to go within to that quiet, peaceful, calm, still place and listen to that still, small voice. And with that, we now take you to our very special interview and guest here on Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and I thank you very much for joining us here on Tell Me Your Story. I have a question for you. Could you? Would you? Well, then when? And you're sitting there going, what are you talking about? Well, you're going to have to stay tuned to the program to find out about the Sedona Method. Is it the secret behind the secret? My guest is not only the founder and director, one of the co-founders. He'll be joining us on the program.
Talk with me, tell me your stories. I'll do my best to understand.
The Sedona Method, your key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. And as I said, is it the secret behind the secret? Well, I had an opportunity, along with my wife, to join a bunch of other folks down in Beverly Hills, California, for what was called the Sedona Salon. It was a rather extraordinary event, and I'd heard of the Sedona Method many times. I'd heard of Sedona many times because, well, I was born and raised in Arizona. Of course I've heard of Sedona, but there's a method to the madness, so to speak. And my guest is actually one of the directors and co-founders of the Sedona Method, and his name is Hale Dwoskin. And Hale, I want to thank you so much for not only joining us on the program, but also for sharing with us back on last Tuesday what you did and getting us started on hopefully the road to happiness and emotional freedom.
Great. Well, thank you for having me. It's my pleasure to be here.
Now, you have been involved in this work for over, and I hope I'm not overstating this, for over 40 years.
Well, you are slightly overstating. It's over 30 years.
30 years, all right.
This work started in the early 70s, and I started with it in the mid-70s. I think I'm just about to start my 32nd year of doing this.
All right. And you actually didn't start this by yourself, did you? You had another gentleman who actually really assisted in putting this together.
Well, the host of work that we teach was originally inspired by a man named Lester Levenson, a physicist engineer who faced some incredible life challenges, and instead of giving up, it caused him to break through the egoic barriers that we usually live behind and to discover the truth of who he is. And Lester was sent home to die, basically, in 1952 at age 42 from a second coronary. And coronary disease was just one of the many issues that his body was experiencing. He basically was a physical and emotional basket case. He had 4 years of therapy with an associate of Freud, and after 4 years, the guy said to him, "I'm sorry, Lester, you some people just can't be helped."
Well,
and he also had diverticulitis, migraines, perforated ulcers, you name it, Lester experienced it his basic body mind was in collapse. But the second coronary was like a wake-up call. He went home, and he actually was very successful. He was living on Central Park South in Manhattan, in New York City, and he realized that he could just take himself off the planet. All his diseases left him with a very full medicine cabinet, but he decided to at least try to find some answers. And what he discovered is that we all have no limitations except the ones that we hold in mind. And even more profoundly, that all our stories, our sense of limitation, all those things that we usually identify with have nothing to do with the truth of who we are. What we are is whole, complete, perfect, full, at ease, and needs no fixing and no changing. And you can discover this right here, right now, by looking into your own direct experience. And what the Sedona Method is about is showing you how to let go of anything inside of you that's contrary to that, that's preventing you from just simply living that.
Mm-hmm. And one of those keys is that threefold question that you posed to us, that I posed to our listeners at the top of the program.
Right.
But there is some further explanation as
Sure.
to how all of that process works. And even within the context of that presentation Tuesday evening, it kind of hit me. I don't know if it was quite like a thunderbolt per se, but it kind of hit me because I'd been dwelling on this for a number of years as far as trying to grapple with this concept. Growing up in Arizona, visiting Sedona, Arizona, being amongst the metaphysical communities that I surrounded myself with, and everybody was searching for and trying to achieve that positive position. Focus on the positive, stay away from the negative. Positive thought, positive mental attitude, positive affirmations. And as we're sitting there and listening to you sharing, this thought came back to my mind. It's like, all right, you're staying away from that and you're focusing on the positive, but we don't ever ask anybody when they're when someone's depressed or sad or lonely or grieving or what have you. We always want to go over and we want to help them out of that.
Right.
But we never do that when they're happy and free and light
Right.
and joyous. Let me help you out of the joy and put you into the sadness. We don't do that. And that's what prompted the question about finding that, I think maybe I may have phrased it, that middle ground, but actually you refer to that a little differently as far as what it is that we are wanting to achieve.
Sure. Well, let me take a step back. In my experience, there actually isn't anything to achieve. And that might sound radical, but all achievement is based on the past and the future. But what's here now is all that's ever here now. We spend a lot of time and energy wanting to change what was and wanting to control what might be. And we miss that right now, right here, is the only thing that we ever have direct access to. We can't actually go back into the past or go forward into the future until they figured out how to create a time machine. Mm-hmm. That's impossible. But we live in this mental world where we actually act as though it is. We spend enormous amounts of time and energy focusing our thoughts and our feelings on, if only that would have been different, or I wish I could prevent that from happening. And there's nothing wrong with taking proactive action, but when are you going to do that? Now. And so what happens is, as you do this work, is you start to simply notice what's actually here now. And in this moment, it's not about positive or negative. Positive and negative, right or wrong, good or bad, are all comparisons. They're all about what was or what might be. They have nothing to do with now. And so the possibility that the Sedona Method presents and the work that we do presents is instead of trying to get into the now, discovering that the now is all there is, and that's it. There's a perfection now. There's a beauty now. There's a peace now. There's all the goodness you're looking for in positive and negative feeling, and it has nothing to do with that. Mm-hmm. Now, it may result in a propensity to have much more constructive thinking, but it's not like trying to hold in mind the positive, because in my experience, first of all, that doesn't work. everyone I've ever met who's really working on trying to hold in mind the positive, they're suffering inordinately because they're resisting every thought that doesn't line up with what they think they should be thinking. And so, if we have 50 or 60,000 thoughts a day, if we're trying to make them all positive, first of all, that's impossible. Secondarily, that's a lot of work.
Mm-hmm.
And lastly, you go to war with your thinking, and that doesn't do anything except create more thinking.
I have had some incredibly violent knockdown dragouts with my own mind.
Right.
And a great deal of suffering, as you say.
Yes, and you and 6.7 billion other people.
Mm-hmm.
We're programmed to believe that the answer is in the mind, where it's never been there. The mind is an incredible tool, and it has many really good uses. But the one thing it's useless for is either creating or sustaining happiness or discovering the truth of who you are. Happiness is your natural state, and you can live as that when you discover the truth of who you are. And it's not positive or negative. It just is.
Mm. Interesting how this whole concept of dualism, the plus and minus, positive, negative, good, evil, and so forth,
right,
has quite literally permeated almost every segment of our society, going back to, the dawning of man. I mean, as long as man has been here, there has been that dualism. Especially if you go back, religion was the dominant force for centuries, and
right.
Of course, good and evil, and good and bad, and right and wrong, and all of those things. And that one of the areas that I've often read about is having to do with the heart, or we might better put it, the emotions, per se, and trying to get a handle on that. I know that there was a great deal of criticism in the 70s and 80s amongst the religious. Within at that time, I was associated more with Christendom because I was working for a Christian radio station, and there was a great deal of negativity towards focusing on your heart because you don't. It's not, if it feels good, do it. There was very much opposition to that.
Right.
But we're not even talking about that here. We're talking...
No, what we're talking about is simpler than that.
Yeah.
Again, when people... one of the things that happens as you go in this direction,
mm-hmm.
you can get really confused because there's so many conflicting teachings out there about how you should be and how you should act and what your state of consciousness should be. But in my experience, the best thing to do is nothing. Not nothing literally, but not constantly try to fix or change what is. The more you let go, the more you surrender. Another way that the Sedona Method has been coined, it's the secret of surrender, or the secret of letting go. And the more you let go, the more you just simply show up and are present with what is. And then everything takes care of itself. You don't have to try to get the mind to be more positive because you're not believing yourself as the mind. Then you can use it as a tool, and a hammer isn't positive or negative. You can use it to drive in a nail, or you can use it to smash your finger. And you might label one positive and one negative, but those are just labels. They have nothing to do with the actual event.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happens is, as you let go, you discover that which is already here, already now, beyond concept, beyond the thinking mind. And it's really available to you. It's not something that you need to work for and find in the future. It's something that's right here, right now. It's always right here, right now. Even if we are lost in a story or really in conflict, or real or imagined, although in my experience all conflict is imagined, even if that's what's apparently happening in the moment, it's only happening because there's awareness, there's presence. That which you are is here and now, and it allows for the whole dance. And so what happens, if you're willing to let go, if you're willing to just simply be present with what is, everything sorts itself out. And you don't have to try to stop judging, for instance, because when you try to stop judging, then you not only have your judgments, but then you have your judgments about your judgments.
It's a never-ending cycle.
No, that's not. Again, it seems that way.
Okay, all right.
No, I agree. For most of us, it seems like a never-ending cycle. But it is, as long as you try to deal with it at the same level. Einstein used to say you can't really solve a problem at the same level it was created. And we created this problem at the level of believing in this thought called I or me or mine. And most techniques that people do to try to fix their lives are trying to make a better me, a happier me, a more relaxed me, without ever examining whether or not that me is actually there, whether it's actually real, whether there's actually something there that's much more exquisite and doesn't need any fixing or changing. And so as you're willing to examine and be open to this possibility, miraculous things happen within your consciousness. And how that relates to the law of attraction is instead of trying to be the attractor, you just simply get yourself out of the way. And then the universe naturally does whatever is appropriate that's best for you, and not just best for you, though. And this is really a critical piece. Best for everyone. Because when we're only out for what's best for us, we are at war with everybody else. Everyone else becomes a threat or an enemy. And it's a very uncomfortable way to live life. And that's true even if you're trying to hold in mind positive. Because then anyone who's holding in mind something negative is a threat, is bad, is no good.
And even holding that positive thought is a judgment.
Exactly. It's saying that thought is better than some other thought.
Yeah.
But what you are is that which is aware yet unaffected by all thinking. What you are is that which is already whole, complete, and perfect as it is. And that doesn't judge. It allows for judging if that's what's occurring, but it has no judgments. Judgments are merely just reactions within the mind. And what you are is that which is present to or aware of, that which gives life to the mind, yet is beyond it.
If you've just joined us, we're talking about the Sedona Method with Hale Dwoskin. He is not only the author of the New York Times best-selling book, The Sedona Method, Your Key to Lasting Happiness, Success, Peace, and Emotional Well-Being. He is also the CEO, Director of Training, and the co-founder of the Sedona Training Association. If you'd like to get more information, we would like to send you to the website Sedona.com. That's www.sedona.com. You can also go to richarddugan.com. That's richarddugan.com. Go to the show's page, and you go to page 2, which is where this interview will be available after the program. And there's also a link to Sedona.com, and you can get further information. Now, Hal, you had made a comment to me about something that we might be able to provide to our listeners, those who are listening to the program.
Anyone listening to the program, we have a lot of free resources on our site, including a 2-hour DVD of a seminar that I did with a good friend of mine named Jack Canfield, who's a Santa Barbara resident. And also there's an hour-long CD which teaches some of the basics of the Sedona Method. And plus you can get those for just a small shipping and handling fee, no charge for the DVD or the CD. And there's also free downloads of MP3s and free newsletters and free reports and all sorts of really great and helpful free resources, all of which is available by going to Sedona.com.
Well, I know that I do get those emails, the newsletters in particular, and I have gone to the website and downloaded and put them on a CD and listened to them in the car as I'm traveling on, just to familiarize myself. And it was an extraordinary evening. I've attended different presentations over the years of different teachers and authors and speakers and so forth, and I always find myself judging the energy in the room. And what I found so fascinating about the energy in that room on the 8th floor there of the Beverly Hilton was the fact that it was a good feeling, no judgment there, but it was almost somewhat of a neutral sensation for me anyway. I didn't get this euphoric sense from the other folks. But I also didn't get this dragging through the mud, desperation. Oh my gosh, we're heading for a recession. We're at war. We're doing this. We're doing that. We're in trouble. Right. Blah 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 blah. It was like this was a place that just kind of opened up in the midst of the heart. I mean, Wilshire Boulevard and Santa Monica Boulevard, if any of you have ever been there, if you're down on the streets, it's just absolutely nuts. But up there on the 8th floor, as we were listening to you and sharing our questions and so forth, there was just this, I guess it was that peaceful feeling, that unshakable calm that you talk about, that if there is anything to achieve, that is what we're working towards, or that we can have right here, right now, in this moment.
Right, exactly. And again, it's not something we're working towards, in my experience, and based on the work I've done with hundreds of thousands of other people. It's what's natural.
Mm-hmm.
That peace that's always here, always now, is just we overlook it because we're so busy calibrating to our next problem, our next thought, our next belief, and all the stories we tell ourselves about us and everyone else and the world.
Now,
you mentioned the world story. I mean,
mm-hmm.
there's some very dramatic stories going on in the world right now, and this is not a denial. It's just that if you recognize they're just a story, then you can check to see what it is that's appropriate for you to do now.
Mm-hmm.
If you get lost in the story can be so overwhelming you feel like there's nothing you can do. And it can actually seem quite hopeless. But when you recognize that everything that's happened up until this moment is done, it's the past, and everything that might happen hasn't happened yet. The only thing that is happening is what's happening now. Then you can deal with life right now. And when you deal with life in the now, it's not as overwhelming. What's overwhelming is all the story, it's all the history, it's all the belief, it's all the assumptions, unexamined assumptions that we live in all day long without realizing that's what we're doing.
I want to go back a little bit, and because the program Tell Me Your Story, we want to have our guests reveal a little bit about themselves, so to speak.
Sure.
And I am very curious as to why people, such as yourself, became involved in this process or processes like this in the first place. What was it that, shall we say, tipped the scales towards living in the now, especially going back into the early and mid 1970s? I mean, I was only a kid growing up, barely into my teens, and just beginning to find my way in the world. And actually, I used to think, I can hardly wait to be an adult. This will be so cool because I'll be able to do this and this and this and this. And here I am today, and many people say this, boy, if I knew then what I know now, I'd still be a child.
Yes. So you've brought up a few really interesting things. Is that I mentioned this in the seminar, but I want to repeat it because your listeners weren't there. But
mm-hmm.
most of us live life as though something good may happen in the future, and we're delaying the happiness, the gratification, the satisfaction, the beauty, the aliveness. We're ignoring that which is all available right now. And what makes any particular situation exquisitely beautiful, one of the key ingredients is that we've dropped our filters. We're not seeing it through our comparisons to the past and the future. We're just there with what is. And simple things could be beautiful then. We recently had a period, about 6-month period, where we were in between cleaning persons, and my wife and I have a relatively large house because we've been very successful. And
mm-hmm.
One of my jobs was to clean the bathrooms, all 4 of them. And that could have been a traumatic thing if I had a story about it or a judgment about it or resistance to it. But I found that as exquisitely beautiful as the mountains in Sedona, which everyone has heard of and many people have experienced. It is, most people would agree, exquisitely beautiful, but there's no less beauty in cleaning a toilet. And again, it's the mind that makes these value judgments of right or wrong or good or bad or says you must resist these types of activities. Because there's so many things that we're doing every day that we're resisting, and we're doing them anyway. And so the resistance just adds suffering to what we're going to do anyway.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's this person in the UK shared this story with me, which I really liked. He was in this pub in the UK, and right over the bar was a sign that said "Free beer tomorrow." And the sign was really old. It had obviously been there for decades. And the people in the pub had never given out a free pint of beer. And the reason for that is whenever you showed up for your free beer tomorrow, it was still waiting for tomorrow, and that's how most of us live. We live our lives waiting for the tomorrow that never comes. Because no matter how much time appears to pass, the time is always now. And now is when you can do something. Mm-hmm. Now is when you can experience life. Now is really all there is that you can actually touch and feel and experience and participate in.
Mm-hmm. And so how did you, way back then, get involved with, get interested in the whole business of being in the now?
Well, it was a process for me. What happened is I was attracted. I came in with a desire to help the planet. And at first I thought I'd be a marine biologist or do something to help the oceans, and then I thought I'd be a doctor and do something to help my fellow man. And then as I kind of examined the sciences and medicine and things like that, I realized there was a lot there that I didn't fully agree with, and I just kept looking for how I could make a contribution. And I was attracted to and exposed to some of the teachings, both from the East and the West, about spirituality and about truth. And so that really got my attention and got me seeking. And I had already, by the time I learned about the Sedona Method, although at the time it was called mind freedom, because it was a way to totally be free of your mind or have a free mind, both actually. And I had done EST, I had done rebirthing. In fact, I was a guest seminar leader and an assistant training supervisor at EST, and I was a rebirther, and I'd done all sorts of yoga and Tai Chi and Aikido and you name it. I'd done it all, but I was still seeking, and most of the people I was learning from were obviously still seeking too. And then I was organizing a seminar in New York City for another seminar leader, and Lester Levenson came to this Sedona seminar as a guest, and I didn't even notice him in the seminar because one of the beautiful things about Lester is that he knew it wasn't about him because there was no personal him. And so he never tried to draw attention to himself in any kind of situation. In fact, he shunned attention. And so I didn't even notice him in the seminar, but fortunately the seminar leader, myself, and the other organizers and Lester went out to lunch. And Lester really didn't say much. I mean, when quizzed, he said, yeah, we teach this course where you sit around a table and release. And this is the mid-'70s. I had visions of beating pillows and all sorts of weird things, which, of course, it has nothing to do with. But I didn't know that at the time. But he was such a living example of presence, of truth, of beingness, of having ended the search, of having this loving caring for everyone, but with no right or wrong or good or bad attached to it, that I was really attracted to that. And so I signed up for the seminar, and the next weekend I was on the seminar, and before the seminar was even over, I just had this intuitive knowingness that this was why I was here. This is how I was going to help the planet. And I've been engaged in this work now since November 1976.
Wow. You know, you bring to mind a biblical passage, especially when you talk about being in the now, and specifically when it talks about evil. And there are many, many passages, of course, Old or New Testaments, that talk about evil and what to do and how to deal with. But I think the one that's the most profound in our discussion here this morning is that in the Bible, Jesus is quoted as saying, resist not evil. But the interesting thing about it is, and I realize that there's more after that, and there's more before it, but nonetheless, there is nowhere in there that it says, go towards the light, or be positive, or, support positive things, good, love, and so forth and so on, in the context of resist not evil. Well, if you're not resisting, you don't have that resistance going on, then you can be right here now. as you say, it is. And is that one of the things that perplexes a lot of people in their minds? Is that it is so simple that they want to make it complicated?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I love this quote from Walt Whitman. Truth is simple. If it was complicated, everybody would understand it.
Well, we hopefully... Go ahead.
In my experience, it really is simple. If things are starting to get complex, then you've probably gotten lost in a story, or you've created some sort of imaginary obstacle that isn't even really there. And what I believe Christ was saying when he said, "Resist not evil," is that when you simply allow what is to be, there is no right or wrong or good or bad or evil. Mm-hmm. And when you resist evil, you feed evil. I mean, look at our planet right now. There's so many people that are resisting what their particular form of evil is. And, you know, we've gotten involved in this protracted war, one of the longest wars, I think the longest war the United States has ever been involved in. And no true end in sight, because now that we're there, we don't know how to leave gracefully. And what we were doing there is resisting evil, or at least our version of evil. And what the people opposing us are doing is the same thing. Mm-hmm. They're resisting what they see as evil in us. And both are imagined. Yeah. There's no evil on either side of this equation. It's just a lot of confusion. And when people start to let go, what they discover is what's actually here. And that beauty takes care of that. It's non-exclusive. And it's also totally a-religious. It has nothing to do with any particular dogma or belief.
Right. Well, if you have just joined us, Hale Dwoskin is my guest. He is, again, the CEO, Director of Training, and co-founder of the Sedona Training Associates. He is also the author of The Sedona Method, and it has to do with your key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. And we certainly hope that you will go to Sedona.com. There's some special offers that are available to you for listening to the program. And you can also check out this interview, share it with others by going to Richard Dugan. That's Richard, DUGAN.com. And you can listen to this interview and go to Hale's website, Sedona.com, and get further information about the program and access some DVDs, some audio files, video files, and so forth, and really begin that journey as we try to provide you with new paradigms for a new world here on Tell Me Your Story. It's all about giving you choices, and we don't necessarily espouse any particular guest or practice or what have you. All we do is we present it here. Now, I may get excited about some of this stuff because some of these things, the elements ring true for me, and I want to share that with you in the context of these programs. But I'm not sitting here endorsing anybody, and I'm just saying, hey, you have an interesting, fascinating concept here, principle, very simple. It doesn't get much simpler than this, Hale. And I just want to share it with the public, and maybe this is my way of helping the planet.
Great.
I would hope.
So too.
Now, I also made a comment, and maybe we can talk a little bit about this because I have been doing some reading about, of course, everybody is very familiar with The Secret. I would use some echo or reverb on that if I had it available. But it is referred to as the Sedona Method is actually referred to even by some of the practitioners and participants in the movie and the book, as are you, a participant in the movie and book The Secret, referring to it as the Sedona Method is the secret behind the secret. I had an interesting conversation with a gentleman who we were discussing The Secret, and he says, you know what, great marketing plan. I mean, they did an awesome job. It was fantastic, but the one thing I think they missed was they needed to go into further explanation on how to accomplish the things that they say that you want, like losing weight. You know, they tell you what you have to do, and I said, see, but that's not the problem. The problem is, see, everybody knows how to do the physical material stuff. They know how to go out and take the pills or do the exercise. It's just the doing it. It's the mind that is the problem. We have to change our mindset. But now, I'm taking another step forward here with you, Hale, and I'm thinking, but that's not what Hale is saying.
Right.
This isn't another step in or for the mind.
Right.
It's almost a step out of the mind.
Yeah, it's a step to discover what's beyond the mind.
It adds a whole new meaning to going, being out of your mind.
Right. Well, there's a negative connotation there because what most people are referring to being out of their mind is actually deeply lost in the mind.
Mm-hmm.
Most pathological states that people say, that person is totally out of mind. The exact opposite is true. They're so lost in the stories and the thoughts and the feelings that are arising in consciousness, they don't think there's anything else. And those thoughts can get very distorted and very blown out of proportion if you think that's all there is.
And then you get medicated if
right.
necessary for that.
Yes, in our society, and 1 out of 5 people in the United States is either on those type of medications or has been on them, which is crazy. It's crazy.
Interesting choice of words, but true.
Yeah.
So
one of the things we haven't done yet, which I'd love to do,
yes.
is share just some of the practical techniques that people can start to use to start to experience some of what we've been talking about. We've been talking around it,
mm-hmm.
and just this conversation, I think, can really be helpful to people, because if you start looking at what's actually here now as opposed to what might be here or how you want to control what the future or change the past, that in and of itself is liberating.
All
but
right.
what's also nice is to know exactly what to do when you find yourself lost in a story, when you find yourself identifying with a feeling, when you find yourself experiencing some unnecessary suffering and you're ready to be free of it.
Mm-hmm.
So why don't we let's go cycle all the way back to those questions you mentioned at the very end of the very beginning of the program.
Yes.
And let's explore those a little bit.
All right.
But in order to do that, I want to explain what I mean by letting go. So those of you listening at home, pick up a pen or a pencil or a paper clip or coin, some object you'd be willing to hold in your hand. Now, if you're listening in an automobile, please just imagine it. So for the sake of this analogy, this object in your hand, whatever it is, represents your unwanted emotions, or just the emotions that are causing you suffering, and all the beliefs about yourself that you really don't want to continue to believe. And so and your hand represents your gut or your awareness. Now grip the object really tightly with your hand. Now if you did this long enough, it would start to feel really uncomfortable and then really familiar, because this is what we're doing all the time with the emotional content and the feeling content and the thought content that we judge as negative or bad. We're actually gripping it really tightly through our resistance. But that's enough gripping. Roll the object around in your hand. Now, is this object attached to your hand? Obviously not. But if you think about your relationship to your emotion, it's even in our language. We don't usually say, I feel sad. We say, I am sad. We don't usually say, I feel angry. We say, I am angry. But every emotion that we have, and every story we have about these emotions, and all the supposedly negative thoughts are as attached to us as this object is attached to your hand. So now close your hand lightly around the object, turn your hand upside down, and then just let go of the object. Just drop it. Now, that's how easy it can be to decide to let go of any unwanted emotion, any limiting belief, any thought stream that's getting in your way. It's simply a choice to let go. And as easily as you drop the pen or drop the object, that's how easy it can be to let go of anything. And I'm not just saying that based on theory. The wonderful thing about the Sedona Method is it's been proven over 3 decades now. And there are hundreds of thousands of people who's had miraculous things happen in their lives just by simply tapping this natural ability to let go. And there's the questions we mentioned in the beginning are some simple questions you can use right now to start letting go of these unwanted emotions. They're just a little taste of what the Sedona Method's about, but just these simple questions can have a huge impact on your life. So the first question is, could you let it go? Now, if you were able to drop the pen, then I know you can. Now, I know your mind might fight that, but unless you're so lost in the story, so not, even though we call it being out of your mind, but you're so in your mind that you don't think there's any difference between your mind and you, and you're wanting to defend that with your life, if you're just even open to a way out, then I know you can let go. The next question is, would you let it go? Would you just means, are you willing to? And if you're ever not sure, you can ask yourself, would I rather hold on to this pain or this suffering or this problem, or would I rather be free of it? And usually the choice is for freedom. And the last question is when. And when is an invitation to decide to do it now? And when you use these questions, it's best to simply follow your heart as best you can as opposed to your head. And that doesn't mean that your head is wrong or bad or that you have to resist it. It's just that the releasing is deeper when it's done more from a feeling place as opposed to a thinking place. And the answers to the questions, allow them to be as simple as possible. Stick to yes or no as best you can. And remember, yes and no are really not better or worse than each other. Whichever one you say in response internally, in response to these questions, can have the exact same result in showing you how to tap that natural ability to let go. So let's actually do the process together. Allow yourself to think of something in your life that you've been wanting to change. Some goal that you've been striving for, some aspiration, some physical challenge, some emotional challenge, some relationship challenge, some financial challenge. It doesn't matter what it is. And in this, and by the way, I probably mentioned too many things. If you've already made a list, just pick one. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you pick for this exercise. The exercise is designed to get you in touch with this natural ability. You can then apply it to anything you'd like. So, as you think about this situation, in this moment, could you just simply welcome whatever sensations, pictures, or sounds it brings up in the moment? Just let them be here as best you can. And then could you allow yourself, as best you can, to let that feeling go, just as best you can? Would you? When? Now, you may have gotten something big shift inside, or it may have been subtle, or you may not be sure, and that's okay, because the questions aren't the process itself. They're simply pointers to this natural ability of letting go. So let's do it a couple more times together. Again, focus on the same situation, and could you just simply welcome whatever's being felt in this moment, whatever's being thought, whatever's being experienced. And then as you focus on the emotion itself, as best you can, even if it's just a sense of it, could you let that feeling go? Just could you? Would you? When? Now let's just do that one more time. Again, think of the same situation and notice what sensations, pictures, or sounds it brings up in awareness. And just notice the overall emotional tone of all that. And could you just simply welcome it? Let it be here. And then as best you can, could you let that feeling go? Just could you? Would you? When? Okay. Now, if you were doing this on your own, you could say, could you let it go, would you, and when? Or you could say, could I, would I, and when? And remember, yes and no are acceptable answers, just as best you can, avoid debate. And if at first you don't get as much relief as you'd like, just keep doing it until you do. And let me give you a very tangible example of how powerful this can be. On our site, we give away a free CD, and you can also download it as an MP3. And there's the same process is on our site. And there was a woman who didn't have the money for our audio program, but did get the CD. And she just listened to it over and over again. And she had such a fear of driving that she sometimes would be driving, and she'd hardly ever take the car. She tried to stay as close to the house as possible because she literally had panic attacks behind the wheel. And sometimes it got so bad that she actually had to have someone come and drive her home. Well, just from doing the process that we just did, she, and this is all stuff that we give away free on our site, that's part of the reason it stuck with my mind, because it was not, she didn't even do our whole program. She just got as much information. If you've just gotten from listening to this, the process we just did together in all our discussion, she, within just a month or two, she was driving normally. She didn't have another panic attack. Her whole phobia around driving completely disappeared.
Wow.
And she never spent a dime. It was all stuff available free at Sedona.com.
It was the time she spent to do it, the process that she went through to put herself through it, the energy that she expended to make it happen. And again, I want to let our listeners know Hale Dwoskin is my guest. The Sedona Method is the book. It's the process to your key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. Now, would we refer to this place that we are wanting to be in the here and the now, of joy and happiness, unshakable peace and calmness. Now, joy and happiness it kind of rings emotion. Peace and unshakable calm don't seem to have quite the same emotional connection. It's like the here and the now. In this place, there is really no emotion. And it's not to say that we're emotionless. We're not automatons.
Right.
But it's that we're not being dragged hither and yon in our minds by our emotions to the past or the future. So there is that, I like to refer to it as that high ground,
Great.
Or higher ground, if you will,
sure.
that we want to be in. Let me ask you in regards to The Secret, because we mentioned it before. Certainly people who are familiar with it, they're wanting they're wanting things. And of course, there's nothing wrong with wanting things, How does this process, the Sedona Method, help us in, or does it help us in getting the things that we want?
Well, it helps in many ways. First off, if you actually believe in the law of attraction, that what you put out comes back to you, then you know that if you honestly examine what you're thinking and feeling throughout most of every day, it's not very positive. So it's not a big surprise that we're not always attracting to us positive things. And we've already discussed that going to war with those negativity doesn't work, but also denying it and putting a happy face on top of it doesn't work either.
Mm-hmm.
So what the Sedona Method does is it shows you how to clear out the old memories, and how to clear out all the emotional baggage that is generating all the negative thoughts and feelings. And it also frees up all that energy we've invested in wanting to change the past and wanting to control the future. So what happens as you let go with the Sedona Method is you start manifesting from a mere effortless thought, not one that you're trying to hold in mind, not one that you're affirming. You just will have a thought, oh, that would be nice, and then it's there. And the results happen with more and more ease and more grace and more alacrity as you let go. So Jack Canfield is I don't know if he listens to your show, but he lives in earshot of this show, but he's traveling all the time, probably not going to hear this. But Jack Canfield promotes this in almost every talk he gives. Marcy Shimoff, another one of the teachers from The Secret, mentioned it in her new book, Happy for No Reason. But every time she gives a talk, one of the resources she recommends everyone to is the Sedona Method. John Asseroff is a graduate. John Gray is a graduate of the Sedona Method and uses it. Actually, it's almost up to about half the teachers in The Secret now are using the Sedona Method and gaining tremendous benefit from it.
Mm-hmm.
And the reason that they think it's so beneficial is they know that most people have a lot of frustration when they're trying to manifest what they want if they're not dealing with all the thoughts and feelings to the contrary. It's like moving forward with a rubber band around your waist, and you tend to snap back into old patterns.
Mm-hmm.
But when you simply let go, you're clearing out the emotional and physical and energetic space to allow true goodness to come to you. And it happens naturally. You don't have to try to make yourself feel positive. You just do naturally. As you let go, your mind naturally gets quieter, and the thoughts naturally, without you trying to effort at it, get more constructive. And so what happens for most people who use the Sedona Method is that manifestation becomes so easy that you don't even really worry about it anymore. You focus on just living moment to moment, and when something is required, it manifests.
It's interesting because I can point to two very specific examples in my life where, and I have not been exposed to this level to the Sedona Method, but it sounds to me like there are instances in each one of our lives where we've had that experience where, for me, I was legally blind until I was 36 years old. And then I received a lens implant, and now I'm driving.
Right.
Well, the funny thing is, about 5 years prior to that, and I had been bicycling everywhere. I mean, and I'd reached the point 5 years previous where I finally came to the position. I said, you know what? It's okay. I can't get a driver's license. I can't even get a driver's license in Arizona for a moped. And you know what? It's okay. I have no problem bicycling to and from. So if I'm 60 or 70 or 80 and I'm still bicycling, it's going to still be okay.
Right.
Because that's not the reason I'm here. I'm here to do other stuff. And I was really focused on that. And it was like, I just let it go. I said, you know what? It doesn't matter anymore. 5 years later, I was starting to develop cataracts in my eye. Go to my ophthalmologist. He says, 50-50 shot. We could do a lens implant. You could lose your sight completely, or you could gain more sight. I said, well, let's go for it, because I'd rather start adjusting now than later. Well, and it had a very positive outcome. And now I'm living in California, driving on the freeways in California, which is really bizarre considering the history and the stories of California driving. I mean, it's just, and to me, that's pretty darn miraculous in one sense. But it was like, I didn't plan on this. I mean, this was not part of initially really what I wanted, because I had accepted it was okay if I didn't.
Right.
And then the universe said, well, you've been asking for so long, so here.
Well, actually, but again, you got right into the very essence.
Uh-oh.
And it had nothing to do with you asking.
Okay.
What happened is, and everyone listening to me has had this experience, you struggle, you ask, you crave, you moan, you complain, you do everything you can, you take lots of action to get what you want. And then at a certain point you go, oh, well, it's okay, I may get it or I may not. It's okay either way. Mm-hmm. That is the energy that's required to create. Passion doesn't create. Passion just creates suffering. What creates, or what creates the opportunity for us to attract what we choose, is that sense of surrender that you reached after much struggle. And what happens with the Sedona Method is you can reach that sense of surrender around your goals very, very quickly. And what that does is two things. It's not a guarantee you'll get what you want. So if anyone has ever told you that if you just follow these procedures, you're definitely going to get what you want, don't believe them. Mm-hmm. There are no guarantees. But what I found is that what naturally happens is you tip the balance in your favor dramatically. So you're much more likely to create what you choose as you let go, and you're okay whether or not you get it. Mm-hmm. And then at the same time, though, because you're letting go in order to get it, you don't suffer. So many of us have achieved our goals only to suffer more. And so many of us have suffered so much along the way towards achieving our goals. But when you use the Sedona Method, the goals process becomes pleasurable. And most people don't see the goals process as pleasurable. But because you feel whole, complete every step along the way, you're okay whether you get the goal. And so that creates such an inner sense of freedom that sometimes the goal is secondary.
Well, now, somebody listening to this now might be saying, well, no, wait a minute. I've always been taught goals were very important and we need to have them and so forth. And now you're saying, on the one hand, yes, goals are important, and on the other hand, and it doesn't matter whether I get it or not.
Well, what I'm saying is, if you're serious about achieving your goals, the most effective way to achieve them is by letting go. It's opposed to efforting and struggling and resisting what is. When you embrace what is, when you allow what is to be, then the now unfolds perfectly in what's right for you. And it makes goals achievement fun and much more effective. And at the same time, yes, all goals are based on a sense of lack, a sense of incompleteness. So what happens as you let go is you bring your sense of completeness to a goal as opposed to trying to get it from it. So, for instance, many people are still waiting for that perfect someone to complete them so that they can feel happy. They could be in or out of relationship, it doesn't matter. But most of us think that if we only have the perfect relationship, then we'll be happy. But if you're waiting for the relationship to bring you happiness, you're going to be disappointed, because relationships are work, first of all. But secondarily, if you're waiting for something external to you to bring your happiness, you're going to wait forever. Whereas if you bring happiness to relationships, you're much more likely to have a relationship that's not going to be work but fun and that you're going to enjoy having. And the same thing is true with health. Most of us are so lost in the dramas about our particular condition or avoiding particular conditions that there's so much suffering that whether condition there is not as secondary.
Mm-hmm.
And when you let that go, then the body can follow its natural healing process, but you don't have to suffer through every step along the way.
Yeah. Well, suffering, though being born and raised into the Catholic traditions is a big deal, or at least it used to be. I don't choose to go down that path anymore, and I would like to continue to live my life with a little or no suffering, and the Sedona Method is certainly a way to achieve that. Your key to lasting happiness, success, peace, and emotional well-being. Hale Dwoskin, I want to thank you so much for joining us on the program.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
And coming on the program at such such short notice, that also I appreciate. It was great to meet you and to have you on the program. And please stay on the line. I'm going to chat with you just a moment or two beforehand. I want to let our listeners know, too, that Hale has some special offers for you and some things that are available on the website, Sedona.com. www.sedona.com. You can also go to my website, Richard Dugan. That's Richard, DUGAN.com. And you can also listen to this interview, share it with other folks as well, including the process that I guess we started that about bottom of the hour, about halfway through the program, and you can revisit that and enjoy that. Go to the website, Richard Dugan, Richard, DUGAN.com. Email me at richard@richarddugan.com, and join us again next Saturday at 11 o'clock for Tell Me Your Story. I'm Richard Dugan, and again, my thanks to Hale Dwoskin for joining us. Love to Lal, and have a great day.